and welcome to Self-Care Tips, and today we have something very special for you. The issue of hair coloring, which has risen in popularity over the last few years. And we are very privileged to have with us Aisha Fazal, a hair colorist expert. She's very good at what she does, and she's going to take us through the whole process to get this kind of results in hair coloring. Sit back and watch the process. Learn something.
So Judicial has decided to go for a purplish reddish tone. Those are the colors that suit her. So I'm just going to first lift. The condition of her hair I've already checked. It's okay, it's in good condition because she does her treatments every 2 weeks. So I'm going to start by lifting and then I will do the toner later.
We have just seen the process of hair color and what it does to transform the looks thanks to the lovely Judicial. This styling has been done by Aisha Fazal. You can find her at Head Start by Aisha on Instagram, and also pay a visit to her at the Avani Clinic. This has been Self-Care Tips on hair coloring. Thank you and good evening.
Rasta. Kumbuka kila Monday ni Iris serving you nothing but the best in reggae music.
Aisha ni yangu, washugulika na yako.
And on Tuesday, it's all about Kenyan music, bringing you the best from the 2-5 flow.
What's poppin'? Brand new wheel, just hopped in.
And of course, to all you hip-hop heads, we've got you covered each and every Wednesday. Not forgetting, we've got some R&B on the side.
Give me a jiggle, let me see, and let me see the woman that is with me.
Now, every Thursday tunavuka border across Africa to bring you nothing but the best for Afro Thursday.
Ready for burn up warning, someone's playing.
And on Friday, we do it live with me, Emily Mbai.
And me, DJ Koljax, on the ones and twos.
Not forgetting DJ_Lizadiva Pale Pia. Make sure you get interactive from 4:30 to 6 p.m. #KBC Club 1.
Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu.
What did you just say?
Sio tamthilia tu.
And why you're saying that
Ni tamthilia tosha.
Alinishika hivi. What?
Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Kabisa kama uelewi kitu inafaa uelewe.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji Kenya.
Well, good evening. You're watching KBC Channel 1 Prime Edition. I'm Regina Manyara, being the 17th of August 2022, as religious sections continue to ask Kenyans to maintain peace following the August 9th polls. But before we get to the details, let's have a look at the highlights. Come out clean. IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati claims the 4 dissenting commissioners wanted to force a rerun as by-elections are postponed indefinitely.
I am asking all public servants who have been forced to take political positions in the just concluded elections to step back and be professional public servants, carry out their mandate professionally and serve all Kenyans equally.
Promising a democratic administration, President-elect William Ruto says his will be an all-inclusive government.
Nchi hii bado ni mapambano ili haki mwishowe ipatikane, so that Kenyans can live happily together. The legal process continues, the political process also continues.
And remaining optimistic, Azimio to pursue options to challenge Ruto's win. Indeed, this is Prime Edition on KBC Channel 1, and I'm Regina Manyara. Thank you for making time. The makings of a presidential petition. What are the contents? We're going to be having a conversation in the course of this particular broadcast. My sign language interpreter is Madam Lucy Maura. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has indefinitely postponed the gubernatorial elections in Mombasa and Kakamega counties. Now, the commission is citing intimidation and profiling of its staff as contributing to the postponement of the election, which also affects 4 constituencies that did not hold National Assembly elections. In a statement, the commission has also dismissed claims by 4 dissenting IEBC commissioners that the presidential tally released by Wafula Chebukati went beyond their 100% mark.
We have staff who have been arbitrarily arrested for no reasons. We don't know where they are.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has postponed the gubernatorial elections that were slated for Monday, 23rd August in Mombasa and Kakamega. In a statement, IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati attributes the move to intimidation of IEBC staff. Chebukati has also postponed the elections of Member of National Assembly for Kitui Rural Constituency in Kitui County, Kacheliba Constituency and Pokot South Constituency in West Pokot County, as well as Rongai Constituency in Nakuru County. Also postponed are elections in 3 wards. Meanwhile, IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati has also dismissed claims by 4 dissenting IEBC commissioners, claiming that the presidential tally as released are beyond the 100% mark. According to Chebukati, the alleged 0.01% increase in the presidential election results raised by the 4 commissioners Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi, Justus Nyangaya and Irene Masit is false and misleading. Chebukati claimed that before the final declaration of the presidential election results, the 4 commissioners demanded that the chairperson moderates the results for purpose of forcing an election rerun, contrary to their oath of office. Chebukati, in the meantime, has called on security agencies to speedily arrest those who attacked IEBC commissioners who are discharging their constitutional obligations at the Bomas of Kenya. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
Now, President-elect William Ruto has promised that his administration will divorce public service from politics. Addressing an inaugural meeting of elected leaders from the Kenya Kwanza, Ruto said his administration will be an all-inclusive and will mirror the face of Kenya. He said he'll seek to have the standing orders in Parliament amended to allow cabinet secretaries to be interrogated in the plenary. Ruto told the meeting that 10 newly elected independent members have joined the Kenya Kwanza team.
President-elect William Ruto Wednesday held his inaugural meeting of elected leaders in the Kenya Kwanza coalition.
We went into elections knowing very well that we had a competitive election. And I want to thank each and every member of this team. I know many of you made huge sacrifices. Your commitment was demonstrable.
Ruto using the forum to make it clear that he will be a democratic government open to criticism.
Every Kenyan can now go back to their phones. You don't have to use WhatsApp, you don't have to use Signal, you can go back and use your normal phone. Because blackmail, intimidation, threats have come to a stop.
The president-elect promising to ensure professionalism is maintained in the public service. He assured Kenyans that his government will serve the people of Kenya equally.
The people of Kenya, we are having our democratic country back. And everybody can speak to everybody about everything in every way they want. And nobody is going to victimize them.
Ruto said though the Kenya Kwanza received massive support from Kenyans, there is need to unite the country, cautioning that there will be no favors or preferential treatment in his government.
People from all corners of Kenya saying, we listened to you guys. We want to know when the delivery of your commitment is going to begin. And I really want us to know that the expectations of the people of Kenya are huge. And therefore, we do not have the luxury of wasting any time.
As part of transparency, the president-elect said he will be seeking to have the standing orders of parliament amended to have his cabinet secretaries directly respond to issues at plenary.
To have a discussion so that we can adjust and amend the standing orders to make it possible for cabinet secretaries to get to the floor of the House and answer questions and explain government policy on the floor of the House so that the people's representatives, members of parliament and senators, can interrogate what their government is doing.
Ruto promised Kenyans that he will rule by democracy.
We are going to govern in a manner that makes sure that no part of Kenya is left behind. No sector of Kenya is left behind. No community of Kenya is left behind. We're going to move together as a nation because the people of Kenya are already telling us that we need to change the politics of our nation and eliminate ethnicity from the equation of the leadership or governance of the Republic of Kenya.
And to build the capacity of newly elected legislators, the president-elect said Kenya Kwanza will be undertaking a mentorship program.
That Kenya Kwanza is going to run a mentorship program for our new members so that we can make them better, more effective, more efficient legislators and people's representatives.
During the meeting, Ruto announced that 10 newly elected independent candidates have joined the Kenya Kwanza team.
12, I think 10 members of the 10 independent members have joined our team.
This inaugural meeting held at the president-elect's residence in Karen brought together all the principals of the Kenya Kwanza with the newly elected leaders. The president-elect holds his first ever meeting with leaders elected under Kenya Kwanza. He has assured Kenyans that his government is ready to roll out slaves and serve all Kenyans without caring their tribal backgrounds and political affiliations.
Indeed, Kenyans will be watching, especially after promises were made on the campaign trail, especially targeting 100 days in office. We are currently on day 98. Now, the Amani National Congress Party Council has nominated its party leader Musalia Mudavadi for the appointment of Prime Cabinet Secretary in the Kenya Kwanza administration. In a virtual meeting, the council unanimously supported Mudavadi for the position, and according to the council, the new position was agreed upon and was to be created through an executive order an agreement signed by President-elect William Ruto, Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula, and ANC's Musalia Mudavadi in case of a win by Kenya Kwanza Alliance in the August 2022 general election. Separately, the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has urged leaders under the Kenya Kwanza to support the coalition's manifesto.
Make devolution work. Let us make our county assemblies work. Let us make the economy work for everybody. Let us support our President William Samoei Ruto in the delivery of his manifesto, which is the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. Let us roll up our sleeves. Let us build Kenya.
Now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party will petition the Supreme Court to order the retailing of Forms 34A. Party leader Raila Odinga met elected leaders under his coalition to strategize on available options to challenge William Ruto's win. And as Gishoke Washira reports, the Blue Team, which currently has a majority of members in the National Assembly, has settled on Kalonzo Musyoka for the position of House Speaker.
A day after Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga rejected the presidential results, he convened a meeting of leaders elected under parties in Azimio la Umoja to strategize on how to challenge UDA's William Ruto's win.
And we also talked about a way forward. We've given them a brief as where we are with regard to presidential elections, and they have approved the steps that we have decided to take as Azimio Coalition.
The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party plans to petition the Supreme Court to order for a retally of results recorded in all Form 34As from all the 46,000 polling stations. The Blue Team believes their win was bungled at the National Tallying Center because results of some polling stations were never recorded.
Nchi hii bado ni mapambano ili haki mwishowe ipatikane so that Kenyans can live happily together. The legal process continues. The political process also continues.
As we explore avenues, all legal and constitutional avenues, let everybody know victory is coming home.
With 162 members elected in the National Assembly under Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, while Kenya Kwanza controls 159 members, the Raila Odinga-led team has settled on Kalonzo Musyoka to be the House Speaker.
Our figures show that we command the National Assembly. We must look and plan how we are going to execute our mandate.
As focus now shifts to the Supreme Court, where Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party will be laying their case against the presidential results, the Raila Odinga-led team is still confident that they shall emerge victorious. Reporting from KICC, I'm Gishoke Washira.
Now, the Supreme Court is ready to handle presidential election petitions should anyone move to the apex court over the August 9th general election. The highest court in the land says it has already activated its machinery a day after the Azimio coalition rejected the presidential results announced by IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati. The move came after the High Court quashed a Supreme Court's amended rules on presidential elections, barring the public from discussing the petition until a judgment is declared.
The Supreme Court has kicked off preparations in anticipation for a presidential petition ahead of the 7 days deadline. The court has already activated its security mechanism on the protocol that will be followed to ensure the process is smooth. The hearing of the petition will be held at the Milimani Court Ceremonial Hall, and only a limited number of lawyers and litigants will be allowed to access the venue. Only accredited media will be allowed into the venue as part of streamlining the number of people admitted to the hall.
And not all media people, there are those ones who have been given an okay to be here. The other people will monitor from wherever.
Those who want to petition the presidential results have 5 days left to do so, as 2 days have already lapsed since the announcement of the results on Tuesday. The High Court in the meantime has squashed the Supreme Court's presidential petition amendment rules, barring the public from discussing the petition until it is heard and determined. In a judgment delivered by Justice Mugure Thande, the court found the rules to be unconstitutional, citing lack of public participation in their creation. The court further said the move usurped authority by Parliament. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Now, the Public Service Commission has assured Kenyans of a seamless transition to a new government in relation to the establishment of government structures and appointments for both incoming and outgoing national and county administrators. PAC Chairperson Ambassador Anthony Mushiri, while addressing journalists, said the Commission has laid down key guidelines ahead of the transition.
As attention shifts to a transition of a new government, PSC Chair Ambassador Anthony Mushiri, who was flanked by his deputy and CEO Dr. Simon Rotich, gave out 9 advisories to aid in the transition. Among the advisories is on recruitment and selection of principal secretaries and exit of serving principal secretaries.
The advisory, if I may add, and the advisories is both for the exiting and incoming new administration. It is also intended to ensure there is seamless continuity of public service by all public service in the entire republic. There will be no disruption of services, and there will be seamless continuity when the current administration exits and the new administration comes in.
Meanwhile, the Commission has said that the Nairobi Metropolitan Services NMS functions will revert to City Hall should the deed of transfer not be renewed after it expires in October. Mushiri said it will be up to the incoming government to renew their mandate. Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
Well, that assurance by the Public Service Commission of a smooth transition takes us to our first breather this evening. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
The King's not punishing you two, but I can't let this go unanswered. From today on, everyone in Floretta Court is on house arrest. Without my permission, no one is allowed to leave.
Does Your Majesty think that I'm being unreasonable?
If the Heavenly King decides you should be punished, I can't save you. Now stay here and be good.
I hope you'll allow me to marry Prince Shinova.
You still want to marry him?
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723 892 654 or 0734 780 124.
You are watching Prime Edition. Now, religious leaders drawn from different faiths in the country have kicked off meetings with key political players in the just concluded elections in a bid to promote peace, justice and cohesion. The clergy says it has already met with President-elect William Ruto and soon will meet ODM leader Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta with the hope that the three can forge a common front.
Addressing the media after an engagement at the Ufungamano House, the clergy drawn from different religious formations lauded the winners of the August 9th general polls, even as they disclosed their availability for spiritual support for those who did not win.
It is our hope and prayer that this engagement will promote justice, peace and prosperity.
And we're also going to meet with the President in due course so that we can also emphasize the same and see how the three of them particularly can work towards bringing understanding and peace and cohesion and unity within our nation.
The religious leaders adding that they've already met President-elect William Ruto to discuss the future of the country, even as plans to meet ODM leader Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta, among other political players, remain in top gear. The disunity at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission came into fore, with the clergy terming it as a matter of concern that they are also seeking to address.
The commissioners may not be reading from the same page, so that we can see how we can help that situation, because they hold a very critical role.
As we pray with them and listen with them to a view of finding out amicable way of going forward.
As Kenyans, we have committed ourselves to be guided by the rule of law and should not allow the electoral process to divide us.
The leaders further commended Kenyans and the security agencies for maintaining the peace during the election period, even as they mourned the lives lost during the time, including that of the Embakasi East returning officer, who went missing only for his body to be found dumped in the Amboseli.
We have prayed for their families and urge the security agencies to speed up investigations so that those responsible are held to account.
Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, the Anglican Church of Kenya, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, has called upon the country to remain calm and united for the sake of peace and unity. Ole Sapit, who spoke after the Azimio la Umoja rejected the presidential poll outcome, urged all Kenyans to keep calm and resume their normal economic daily activities.
Tunashukuru wa Kenya kwa kuweka amani hadi wakati huu. Na tunashukuru kwa sababu Kenya ya leo ni tofauti na Kenya ya miaka hizo zingine. Wakenya wameona umuhimu wa amani ni bora kuliko mambo mengine. Tumesema pia tunapozingatia amani, tunasema tunataka uchaguzi ndio njia ya kutupatia uongozi kwa njia ya haki. Na kama kuna yule ambayo hajaona alipata haki kupitia uchaguzi huu, kwa nyadhifa hizo zingine zote kuanzia MCA, kiti ya ugavana, kiti ya ubunge, waelekee kotini njia mwafaka ambayo sasa haki hiyo itaenda kutendeka. Wito wangu kwa viongozi wote, wale walitangazwa washindi na wale ambao hawajatangazwa washindi, tutafute pia mbinu na njia ya mazungumzo ya pamoja, kwa sababu tusipozungumza basi hatutasongesha nchi yetu mbele. Kwa hivyo nataka kusema kila upande tuweze kufikiana, tuweze kuelewana, tuweze kusema ni nini tutafanya ili Kenya iweze kusonga mbele.
Now, women who lost in the just concluded general election now want to be considered for appointments and nomination positions in either the two levels of government. The women under the umbrella of Kenyan women politics leaders they're offering themselves for elective positions in the just concluded election shows they are capable leaders who are willing to serve Kenyans if given the opportunity to do so.
This year's general election saw an unprecedented number of women elected both as governors and at the National Assembly. Many more women had, however, offered themselves for elective positions from the county assembly level to the national level.
Wamama power. Power. Wamama power.
Power. This group of women leaders under the umbrella of Kenya Women Political Leaders are now urging those who ascended to different leadership positions to consider women who lost in the elections for various appointments or nomination positions available.
We are a tribe of women who went through the harsh terrain of politics and campaigns, and today we are here to put our voice across the whole nation and say that behind the winners of the just concluded election are ladies who bared and put their everything.
Noting that the country is yet to actualize the 2/3 gender rule, the women leaders who spoke during a press briefing called early Wednesday said the country needs more women representation who can ably represent issues affecting Kenyans at the grassroots levels.
We are looking at 50-50 positions in government because these are women who are politically exposed. And we are saying we would like to be assimilated because our life does not only stop with politics. And we have our own careers that we need to progress. We can contribute progressively in this country, in our counties, in our constituencies. And therefore we are speaking to all the elected leaders and telling them we are here. Women power. Women, we are here.
We are here.
They are calling on the government through the elected leaders to ensure women participation in nation building to narrow the gender gaps in education, training and employment.
Watakaoteuliwa, atakaye kuwa rais na magavana ambao waliteuliwa pia wasisahau hawa wamama. Hawa wamama ni wasomi, wameng'ang'ania hizo viti mpaka wakafika mwisho, na ndio maana tunasema wasipotee. Mama musilale.
For Prime Edition, I'm Nisi Emmanuel.
Now, the government has said that there will be no further disruption of the school calendar. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, who also announced the reopening of schools tomorrow, has affirmed the schools will not be closed in case of a repeat presidential election. Zainab Said reports.
Speaking while commissioning Phase 2 of competence-based curriculum classes in Embakasi and Makadara sub-counties in Nairobi, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha revealed that the ministry was in talks with the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission (IEBC) to ensure learning is not disrupted by the polls.
This ministry, under the outgoing government of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, is going to do everything possible to ensure that we work with other ministries and make certain decisions at the appropriate time. For example, if there is going to be an election in the near future, after thorough consultation, the government will pronounce itself about our children, and the most important thing that we shall consider is their safety.
With IEBC expected to conduct Mombasa and Kakamega gubernatorial elections on 23rd August, Magoha proposed the use of higher learning institutions as polling and tallying centers.
If there's an election somewhere and it will take a day, we are not going to ask our children in boarding schools to go home again. It is far much wiser to ensure that the children who are in boarding school remain in boarding school and do other things and avoid the classrooms where the voting will be taking place.
Assuring parents of government's focus on smooth transitioning, Magoha maintained learning will resume across the country on Thursday.
We are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Therefore, we are not about to make major policy changes when there is an incoming government in the nearest future. If the situation changes and it becomes apparent that it is not so soon, then we shall pronounce ourselves.
It is here that Magoha revealed that CBC classroom construction across the country was at 75%, with Nyeri County already complete at 100%.
It's in that region, Nyandarua, Kirinyaga, Kiambu, and Murang'a are at over 90%. When you go to the Nyanza region, all the counties are over 90% except for Kisii, where we are focusing.
The Education Cabinet Secretary said he is ready for the transition in government.
Since I'm still very strong and extremely intelligent, God will find something for me to do. I believe so, because there's a lot of work to be done in this country. And I believe, like I say, I don't look for jobs. Jobs look for me. And you know why? Because wherever I have been, you can actually measure what I have done.
Zainab Said, Prime Edition.
Well, a confident Cabinet Secretary Education there, Professor George Magoha, assuring parents that no disruption of the school calendar. It indeed is a welcome assurance, but only he cited that up until the tenure of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Well, we'll wait and see. Now on to matters health. 19 more Kenyans have tested positive for COVID-19 from a sample size of 1,262 in the last 24 hours. The positivity rate now stands at 1.5%. According to the Ministry of Health, no death has been recorded Wednesday, with the cumulative fatalities remaining at 5,673. As of Wednesday, a total of 20,920,445 vaccines have been administered across the country. Data from the Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center shows that half of at least 578 million COVID-19 infections have been confirmed globally, with more than 6.4 million deaths been reported since the pandemic began. The government is working towards vaccinating a targeted population of 27,246,033 people. Now let's take a walk down memory lane. Now, in a country whose election has been marred by allegations of irregularities, the 1988 general election will always be remembered for the blatant disregard for the principle of a free and fair election. Tonight on History in Perspective, we take a look at the incident that is most credited with impacting Kenya's push for return of multi-partyism 6 years after Kenya formally became a one-party state, the Mlolongo voting system of 1988.
Good morning. Taking a trip back to the early 80s, a time when the then President Daniel Arap Moi was consolidating power, having taken over the country's leadership after the demise of founding President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta in 1978. Ali expected to instill a democracy-oriented political space in Kenya once he took office. Moi would take a different direction and personalize power during his reign.
My ambition is to see Kenyans live and move forward happily.
More so, the ruling party KANU arguably considered itself superior to parliament, using its disciplinary powers to bar its critics from participating in elective politics.
The elections that we witnessed when Kenya attained independence in 1963, they are all very well carried out democratically, and they came up with the popular winners that particular time. And that came along all the way through up to 1988.
Based on this premise, coupled with a number of significant factors during the 1980s, President Moi, through Parliament, would in the 1988 general election introduce the Mlolongo voting system, where voters literally lined up behind photographs of their preferred candidates.
Earlier on, I think Moi was terribly disappointed with the 1982 attempted military coup. He thought there are some people who he really trusted, and they had let him down by being involved in the attempted military coup. That was 1982. But the next election of 1983 went on very, very, very well. There were no problems whatsoever. But come 1988, there came up the infamous Mlolongo system. Why it was decided? It was going to be carried by a queuing system.
He's a Democrat, and so he wants people to be thrown out democratically, which he would have organized. So he had organized that. These people, some people will go. And people like Robia were complaining, asking Josephat Karanja, who made you the prefect of Nairobi? That sort of thing. So the image thing, when you are supreme and you want to do things or get things done your way, you come up with a device. So the people who came up with the Mlolongo device thought they were doing something very good and very intelligent. Had they asked, they would have been told you are messing up because it will boomerang on you. And it boomeranged very badly.
During the primaries ahead of the 88 elections, candidates who obtained at least 30% of the total number of votes recorded in each constituency won the ticket to vie on a KANU ticket. Furthermore, candidates who got more than 70% of the votes during the nominations were automatically declared the sole candidate, loosely translating to the said candidate winning the general election.
What you have is more consolidating his base by eliminating anyone who may have had problems not thinking. Because you see, told people to stop thinking the presidential prerogative. The vice president. Yeah, in Odaya. He was supposed to lose in Odaya. And so when you saw the returning officer, who used to be the DC, that he was going to announce, he grabbed the microphone and said, rigging requires what? Intelligence. Yes, that's how it came up. He just grabbed. Otherwise, had it been announced that he had lost, that would have been, whatever it was. So he was quick enough to grab the microphone and just make a law. So of course they had to cool down.
The outcome, as expected, would see KANU win all 188 seats in Parliament, with Moi being the sole candidate in the presidential election, winning a second term in power.
I remember my late friend, Honorable Jenga Karume, a man I highly respect, a man I carry with a lot of dignity because he was a great man. It was said and declared that his own farmhand in a coffee estate he owned had defeated him in the Mlolongo system. Jenga Karume was defeated by his own farmhand in his coffee estate. When the man was found, he said, no. I never participated in the elections. In any case, Mheshimiwa Jenga Karume is my boss, is my employer. How can I even be bold enough to oppose him?
However, with massive irregularities being witnessed, critics in form of dissenting voices in the political arena, as well as the clergy and the citizenry alike, would condemn the election as a sham, triggering the clamour for the return of multi-party politics, spearheaded by, among others, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Kenneth Matiba.
In 1990, the late Matiba and Charles Rubia said, enough is enough. We must have a multi-party system. And then they called for a meeting at the Kamukoji 7, called it Sabasaba. My God. People became wired with that meeting. And then the rest is history. Matiba was detained. Rubia was detained. But then the whole country now would have done anything to ensure that there was a multipartyism. Whether it is death or whatever, they were ready.
Kibaki would later resign from the government in 1991 to join the opposition.
And although some people might have been convinced or persuaded that it probably is a good idea, because you can see, when it was implemented, the opposite happened. That in itself broke Moi's rule.
The agenda bore fruit in December 1991 with the repeal of Section 2A of the Constitution, paving way for the multi-party elections held in 1992.
Julieta Olmedo has escaped.
Sound the alarm. Already married, and they're celebrating their love even as we speak.
They won't be together for another minute, I swear it. I'll make sure that they'll be separated forever.
I also want to apologize to all those who I have hurt directly or indirectly in any way because of my arrogance, my selfishness, and my infinite folly.
Karen, no. I swear you cannot have my brother.
Get up, put the gun down.
Don't come any closer.
What's up, party people? They call me DJ Coljax. Now be sure to catch me live on KBC Channel 1 each and every Friday, right here on KBC Channel 1 from 10:30 p.m. and each and every Saturday from 11 p.m.
You're rocking with the best in the business. It's DJ Coljax.
As I play you nothing but the best in throwback disco.
Good evening. This is still prime time on KBC Channel 1 and I'm Regina Manyara. My sign language interpreter remains Madam Lucy Moura. Thank you for keeping us company. So now, before we speak matters of the presidential petition in the offing, let's look at matters business, where Nairobi's city centre is teeming with life 2 days after the announcement of the presidential results, with most businesses having opened their operations. Now, on a sport check, KBC Channel 1 found that most merchants and PSV operators are back to their routine and are hopeful the momentum continues as the week progresses. Here's Hibak Said with more.
How the hell are you supposed to function?
Hali ya kawaida inarejelea.
Your boss.
I think it's good so far.
Apologies for that mix-up. Definitely can get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Let's cross over to the corporate scene, where Zamara client base can now access critical illness cover following a partnership deal with Old Mutual Insurance. This follows a deal between Old Mutual Insurance and Zamara to offer one-stop financial solutions to its customer base. Details of this and other stories from the corporate scene. Even with an enhanced comprehensive cover, there are conditions that are not fully covered or completely excluded from the cover, leaving the insured to source funding elsewhere in the event one is diagnosed with a critical illness.
And this is because critical illness insurance, together with any other risk benefits, has become key in terms of some of the things that one needs to consider in their planning for retirement or in their financial journey.
So the cover provides a cash payout, a lump sum cash payout to a member who is on cover and has been diagnosed with a critical illness. You all know how expensive it is to treat some of these illnesses like cancer, heart attacks. And it is basically a strain into the financial resources of individuals once somebody is unfortunately diagnosed with a critical illness.
Under the partnership, Zamara, a financial services firm that primarily offers actuarial services, pension administration and consulting, and insurance brokerage service, customer base will benefit from Old Mutual critical illness insurance cover. This will enable individuals and their families preserve their savings in the event of a diagnosis such as cancer. Elsewhere, Joan Mwangi Yelbert has taken over as the chairperson of the Kenya Tourism Board on a 3-year term. Joan Mwangi Yelbert is the first female chairperson of KTB since the inception of the Tourism Marketing Agency. She takes over from outgoing chair Jimmy Kariuki. Joan said she would focus on anchoring domestic and regional tourism as core, while also uniquely positioning the Magical Kenya brand to pivot Kenya's tourism in lucrative international markets. She has served as a strategic advisor to several government and private sector boards and is the immediate chair of the Advertising Standards Body of Kenya.
Finally, Kenyan families pay more than 1.75 times of their household monthly income on school supplies. This is according to a study by global payments company World Remit that reveals that the average household income globally decreased by 4%, while the cost of basic school supplies increased by more than 7% on average. At the same time, the study notes that there is a decline in money sent home from overseas to support education owing to the rising living costs. Regina Manyara reporting from Prime Edition.
Indeed, in executing my other mandate, indeed, I'm a reporter. That was just a story that I compiled from the corporate scene. Now, still on matters business, now we have the right report here. Nairobi City Centre is teeming with life 2 days after the announcement of the presidential results, with most businesses having their operations underway. A spot check by KBC Channel 1 found that most merchants and PSV operators are back to their routine and are hopeful the momentum continues as the week progresses. Here is Hibak Said.
How the hell are you supposed to function?
Normalcy is returning.
Your boss?
I think it's good so far.
At the heart of Nairobi, residents go about their daily tasks, determined to make the most. While counting losses and projecting possible profits, many businesses here have already shifted focus, and all eyes are on wooing the next customer.
Watu kabisa wajarudi vile kulikuwa kitambo, but we are hopeful watarudi, na so far tunaona maybe wataanza kurudi.
Janet Mbulo, a business owner, says the post-election bounce back has been quite remarkable and is hopeful it will hit the peak soon.
Supply chain, it was very affected kabisa since Islia wako wanafungua, so wholesalers wako wanapata products kutoka huko. Then retailers pia hawapati from wholesalers. Then from there sisi hatupati kazi juu retailers wakuji photography kufanywa photography.
Business zilikuwa zimerudi chini kidogo, lakini saa hii watu wanarudi moja hivi.
She says businesses here rely on many other players within the supply chain to be functional, and a threat to any part of the link compromises their operation.
Watu wametokea kabisa, watu wamerudi makazi. Tunaambia watu watokee, watu wafanye kazi, to direct leaders, tugojea hiyo vitu zingine ziendelee. The road to take its course.
Corona ilikuwa imetupiga pia, lakini sasa tunaomba kazi irudi, pia sisi tutafute yetu juu ya nini? Hatuwezi kuwa kwa siasa kila wakati, na corona pia imetupiga. Tunakubali mambo yenye metendeka iko sawa, na Mungu atubariki na kazi irudi, tufanye si wote. Juu bila hii kazi, si ni wananchi wa hapo tunapata ile kidogo. Hakuna mali tumeandikiwa mshahara. Lazima kila siku tuamke. Unaona kazi ya kila siku ikiharibika, pia sisi hatuwezi kuwa mahali.
Her sentiments are shared by other businesses in the city centre who anticipate a conducive business environment going forward. They say the time for development is now and Kenyans should focus on work.
From a ghost town to a bed of activities, the city under the sun calls back its worker bees, and the rallying call is let's get back to work. Hibak Said for KBC Channel 1.
Indeed, let's get back to work. Now, across the globe, crude oil prices have rebounded from a 6-month low as unexpectedly large drop in the U.S. oil and gasoline stocks reminded investors that demand remains firm if overshadowed by prospect of a global recession. Brent crude futures rose 90 basis points to $93.16 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude futures was up 1% to $87.38 a barrel. Here are the details of these stories and others from across the globe.
Crude oil stocks declined by about 448,000 barrels for the week ended 12th August. Gasoline inventories fell by about 4.5 million barrels, while distillate stock were down by about 759,000 barrels. Crude inventories dropped by about 300,000 barrels last week, and gasoline stockpiles slightly fell 1.1 million barrels. While distillate inventories rose, crude oil supply could rise if talks to revive the Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with world powers are successful, which would remove sanctions on Iranian oil exports. The European Union and United States say they were studying Iran's response to what the EU has called its final proposal to save the deal after Tehran called on Washington to show flexibility. Meanwhile, commodity prices are continuing to rise at their fastest rate for more than 40 years, with UK inflation passing double digits for the first time since 1982. Inflation hit 10.1% in 12 months to July, up from 9.4% in June. The Bank of England projects that inflation could peak at more than 13%. Rising prices of food, electricity, petrol and diesel are contributing to the rising inflation, with commodity prices rising faster than wages. The price of bread, cereals, milk, cheese and egg rose the fastest in July, while the cost of vegetables, meat and chocolate were also higher. Finally, Greece is having one of its best ever tourism season, with a number of tourists exceeding pre-pandemic levels, and the country is on track to attract more than 33 million visitors this year, with several Greek islands approaching full capacity as the summer season peaks. Flights into the capital have jumped by 20%, with the city bracing more than 1 million visitors a week. The tourism season in Greece normally will last 7 months and employ more than 1 million people, making it the backbone of the economy.
The king's not punishing you two, but I can't let this go unanswered. From today on, everyone in Floretta Court is on house arrest. Without my permission, no one is allowed to leave.
Did Your Majesty think that I'm being unreasonable?
If the Heavenly King decides you should be punished, I can't save you. Now stay here and be good.
I hope you'll allow me to marry Prince Shinova.
You still want to marry him?
Hamna amani tena, kwani kwa Laba na Hana kuna panda shuka si haba.
Mtoto wangu hataona psychiatrist yoyote.
Shut up! Kelsey naye ni pilipili kali wa pili.
Sitaki kumwona Casey nyumbani kwangu. Period.
Jackie huyo anajaribu vyake kwa kati.
Nilikwambia nitakuharibu uso wako. Ndio unajua kwamba uhalifu ukufai.
Safari na Kahindi wanazo ngoma si haba.
Nyinyi kuna nini?
Huyu Kahindi alisema tatila somo kwenye chakula.
Yote hayani katika tamthilia ya Maza. Fululiza Jumanne hadi Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, the national boxing trials to select a team which will represent the country in the African Boxing Championships will be held between the 25th and 27th of this month at the Charter Hall here in Nairobi. The African Boxing Championships are scheduled to be held between 9th and 18th of September in Maputo, Mozambique.
A total of 72 male boxers and female boxers who have passed the intermediate stage have been invited to take part in the 3-day event. Among the international boxers picked are defending Africa lightweight champion Nick Okoth, bantam Shafi Bakari, flyweight David Karanja, feather Samuel Njau, Martin Odwar, light welter Victor Othiambo, light middle Boniface Mogunde, middle Edwin Okongo, and light heavy George Cosby. Boxing Federation of Kenya Secretary General David Munuo has said the trials are aimed at selecting a strong Kenyan team to take part in the Africa Boxing Championship scheduled to be held in Maputo, Mozambique between 9th and 18th of September. At the previous African Championship in 2017 in Brazzaville in the Republic of Congo, Kenya finished 8th with 1 gold from Nick Okoth and 4 bronze medals from light fly Shafi Bakari, who made his international debut, middleweight John Chalo, light flyweight Christine Ongare, and middle Elizabeth Akinyi, both of whom made history as the first Kenyan female boxers to win medals in an international tournament.
Moving on, Malindi Golf and Country Club in Kilifi County will on August 27th host its first ever national tournament. The Malindi Open, a 2-day tournament, is one of the many national events which were added into the growing list of the Kenya Amateur Golf Championship Golf Series. The event will be held on 9-hole course by the Kenya Golf Union in the inaugural Malindi Open, whose entry deadline is August the 21st and will be restricted to only 72 players of handicap index 17.3 and under. There will be subsidiary event which will be limited to 40 players only. Some of the leading home players who will be in action will be Alois Ogola and club chairman Tukero Olekina and the newly crowned Coast Open champion William Kaguta and Henry Kamau, among others. And finally, Rangers shared points with Dutch giants PSV after a 2-2 draw in the European Champions League qualifiers. At the Ibrox Stadium in other qualifiers, Bodo beat Dynamo Zagreb, while Copenhagen won against Trabzonspor.
Rangers Football Club's hopes of ending their 12-year absence from the Champions League group stages are on a knife edge after a 2-2 draw with PSV Eindhoven in the first leg of the qualifiers. The host side fell behind to Ibrahim Sangare's stamping finish, only to hit back swiftly with Antonio Kolak's well-crafted equalizer. PSV goalkeeper Walter Benitez gifted the host a second-half lead after spilling a Tom Lawrence free kick. But the visitors were on level terms when Armando Obispo scored in the 78th minute.
PSV are level, and it's Armando Obispo who got his head to it.
In the other qualifiers, Denmark's Copenhagen beat Turkey side Trabzonspor 2-1 at the Parken Stadium. Victor Clisson gave the host an early lead in the 9th minute before Lucas Larrega added the second goal in the 48th minute. Anastasios Baskestas scored for the visitors in the 79th minute. Norwegian side Bodo Glimt beat Dynamo Zagreb 1-0 through an Amal Pellegrino goal at the AS Primera Stadium.
And those are all the sports stories we had for you tonight. I'll see you tomorrow with more sports stories. From me, Karen Kibet, to you, have yourself a peaceful night, but the broadcast is not yet over, as my colleague Regina Manyara is on the other side of the studio with an interview in line in matters still elections and matters Supreme Court. So let's cross over to her so that we can listen in to that. Regina?
Thank you very much, Karen, for that. Indeed, we are not done or dusted here in Prime Edition tonight with the presidential petition in the offing. We need to understand, are there grounds for a presidential petition, and what are the grounds? What options for Azimio One Kenya Alliance? To take us through this conversation is none other than Professor Ben Sihanya, who is a constitutional lawyer. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Now, let's start off there. Are there grounds for a presidential petition?
Yes.
What are these grounds? Maybe take us through that. What are the grounds?
And indeed, viewers, the grounds and the issues are clearer than in 2017. In fact, when we started 2017, it was more complex because there were but 2022 are clearer, and one may find so many. But maybe we just do probably 3 or so. One of the key issues is that the Constitution requires that an election should be simple, accurate, verifiable, transparent, and accountable. And then the election is, especially a presidential election, which we are focusing on, is both about process and the numbers, the figures, the votes, outcome. And that's what Raila 2017 emphasized. So the main issue there, one of the main issues therefore there is the question of process, the process of tallying, the process of verification. That one alone is an issue. And there wasn't transparency, verify and accountability in the tallying and verification. And the evidence also that has been there in the media as well. A related process question is the one regarding the role of the commissioners. Because the Constitution, Article 138.3, as read with Article 138.10, talk about declaration being the final stage, and which must come from a tallying process and a verification process in which the commission or commissioners, commission means commissioners, of course oversighting the staff working on this. And here we already have evidence of 4 commissioners who are a majority saying that the process was opaque. In fact, to use constitutional language, it was not transparent. It was not accountable. It was not verifiable. And I think that's one of the main issues this year, because even in the past, even in 2007, 2013, 2017, there was always talk that some commissioners did not necessarily agree with what was being done, but they decided to hang together. But in 2022, 4 commissioners who
pulling apart.
Who have read Chapter 6, leadership and integrity, are saying we are not going the way the chairman is going, the chairperson is going with the commission, and there is no transparency, there is no accountability. So we cannot be bound to do things which are contrary to the leadership and integrity code, etc., and also their own act on this issue. So the issue of role of the commissioners vis-a-vis the role of the chair. The other issue is about the question of verifiability of forms 34A, 34B, 34C, and there has been a lot of debate on that. Actually, that the materials which were in the portal are not necessarily what was also what ought to have been uploaded. And in some cases, this is about a question of verifiability here is both qualitative verifiability and quantitative verifiability. Quantitative means that the numbers, the actual numbers, there are so many top-ups for the candidate that Mr. Chebukati preferred. He sponsored his client. So that is that's a really a major problem. Probably another problem here would be the question of the total votes cast. The question of these issues of what was the number of total registered voters? Let me start there. What was the total number of registered voters? What were the total total valid votes cast? You can say total the votes cast generally, but then the valid vis-a-vis those which were rejected. And that is not very, very clear when Chebukati was filling his Form 34C. And again, the commissioner spoke to that. You are giving percentages which actually even exceed 100%. So the moment it exceeds 100%, you can't tell us that you are rounding off. It must be 100%, not more than that. So those are some of the problems. For example,
four issues that you have outlined.
At least four. There are so many.
At least four.
Yes.
So we go with the at least four: the transparency, or the lack of transparency and accountability, looking at the process and the votes, and the process of tallying, lacking verification in the tallying. Then also the role of the commission. They're pointing at 4 commissioners who are, dissenting.
And there are majority.
Yes, and
4 over 7.
4 over 7. The majority dissenting with the declaration made there by the IEBC chair, as well as the verifiability of Form 34As and Form 34Bs, as well as the issue of, the number work, total votes, total number of cast votes vis-a-vis the registered and such. Basically, you're throwing a question into Form 34C. That's the main 4 things we have heard that you've picked top of your mind.
Yes,
that could actually, or rather, are forming ground of this presidential petition.
Yes.
Now, to also set the ball rolling, maybe this might have informed the move that Azimio took earlier on, and we just want to recap the decision that was made by Azimio there when at the KICC, where they met their leaders and such, is that now they're going to be petitioning the Supreme Court there to order a retelling of the Form 34As. Let's have a listen in before now we delve into the matters of the presidential petition there.
The Supreme Court has kicked off preparations in anticipation for a presidential petition ahead of the 7 days deadline. The court has already activated its security mechanism on the protocol that will be followed to ensure the process is smooth. The hearing of the petition will be held at the Milimani Court Ceremonial Hall, and only a limited number of lawyers and litigants will be allowed to access the venue. Only accredited media will be allowed into the venue as part of streamlining the number of people admitted to the hall.
And not all media people, there are those ones who have been given an okay to be here. The other people will monitor from wherever.
Those who want to petition the presidential results have 5 days left to do so, as 2 days have already lapsed since the announcement of the results on Tuesday. The High Court, in the meantime, has quashed the Supreme Court's presidential petition amendment rules, barring the public from discussing the petition until it is heard and determined. In a judgment delivered by Justice Mugure Thande, the court found the rules to be unconstitutional, citing lack of public participation in their creation. The court further said the move usurped authority by Parliament. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Now, that is just a clear indication that the other arm of government, which is the judiciary, it is ready to take on its mandate there in as far as the presidential petition is concerned, if it is filed. Now, here in studio, I have none other than Professor Ben Sihanya, who is going to take us through this conversation in regard to the presidential petition. Now, you have highlighted 4 areas, and now let's pick it up from there. The issue of transparency and accountability. One would argue that IEBC has continued to preach that it conducted and it will conduct a free and fair election, and even they put up the Form 34As up there for anyone who had the capacity to tally, including the media, to do so. They would say that they have ensured that it was transparent. And I hear you beg to differ on that.
Absolutely. There are so many problems. If you look at the material on the portal, there are some which are actually blank, or at least at one stage they were blank. There were some which did not have the appropriate signatures. There were some which had issues about what you'd call the appropriate security features, etc. Which is a qualitative process. There's the issue of who actually uploaded them, who witnessed the uploading, etc., etc. And there was acknowledgement of at least 200 hacking, either attempts or in some cases was there successful hacking. Those are some of the issues, and I think even when we were at Bomas, some of the IEBC officials, at least one of them was arrested for colluding with a candidate who was favored by IEBC chair and there was evidence that this person was really colluding with some of these.
Well, that is a matter that is still under investigation.
Yes,
We are yet to get to the bottom of that. But now on the issue of transparency, some would argue that because the Form 34As were already there, well, that is a form of transparency. And remember that the declaration made at the polling center using that Form 34A is actually final. That even what came to the National Tallying Center was a verification, and the declarations made there then were final.
Yeah, so 34A, and I was, as you pointed out much earlier, I was in minor KIE from the case, from the High Court through the Court of Appeal and to the Supreme Court. And that case is the authority, and of course this was also implemented in Raila 2017. That case is the main authority for the argument that the results which have been given at the polling station level, Form 34A, are final, and they can only be varied by what is called an election court, in other words, an election petition. And of course, subject to the rule on arithmetic or clerical errors, which any human being can make. But when there were fundamental errors in these forms, some of which were discovered and corrected, some were not corrected, when the four commissioners are saying, and there's a lot of evidence for anybody who cares, that they did not, for example, verify and tally. We did not, and I was a verification clerk. We did not tally and verify from all the constituencies.
Now let me bring that. Let me come around.
And they didn't announce from all the constituencies.
And they did not before.
So that itself can't be. There can't be transparency there and accountability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you'd argue there's a question to put: who uploaded these particular forms online? That was the work of the IEBC officials, and the party agents were required to sign upon, or rather sign on those particular documents. So if there were errors, why did these party agents continue to append their signatures into these particular forms?
In some cases, actually, there was serious problems, including the fact that in so many, and a lot of our observers and agents have already spoken to that, those who are candid, that they were supposed to witness very closely the uploading and even get a snapshot, and that's part of the protocol from IEBC. True. Many were denied that. Many were denied the form that they ought to have been given, or the one that was supposed to be pinned on at the polling station. In so many, that can't be transparency. That can't be accountability. So there are
glaring differences when it comes to the uploading of the Form 34, and maybe this is why Azimio is actually calling for a retally over the Form 34As.
Yes, and I think in so many areas, especially in Central, you would see that there is a lot of high voter turnout for purposes of the presidential election in respective constituencies vis-a-vis in the other seats, and yet everybody is supposed to be given 6 ballot papers. And in the event that you don't want to vote for the others, it would be declared as maybe a spoiled or rejected or something like that. So where is that discrepancy coming from?
Those are
and that was also a problem in
2017, and that's where I want to go, because we had, as a media, we put this question forth to IEBC well before this particular process began. So what happens was that question of why are we having a number of people in a particular area voting more for the president and not for the other seats? And this was a response, and I'd want to paraphrase it or even quote unquote. They said, actually, Wafula Chebukati indicated that there's 6 contenders. Each will get 6, each voter is going to get, and in the event that you do not want to vote for one candidate or another, you're still expected to fold your leaflet and drop it into the box.
Leave it there.
And leave it there.
Yes.
So maybe that's
and it should be accounted for.
And
at the end of the day, the votes cast, total votes cast, should be the same, or at least if you also use the counterfoil to really check with all the ballot papers that have been given. And therefore, some either are validly cast or some are stray, or some. But then in totality, they should be the same. for all the 6 seats.
Now, away from the transparency, now let's delve into the issue. The other issue that you have raised as a grounds to have this petition is the role of the commission. What we need to understand is the role of the IEBC chair as the president's returning officer, as the chair of IEBC, vis-a-vis the role of the IEBC itself, IEBC commissioners. We have seen a push and pull there, with 4 of them, a majority, as you rightfully put, dissent from the results that were read by the president's arrow, that's the chair, Wafula Chebukati. Make us understand the role between the chair of the IEBC, as prescribed by the law, and the role of the commissioners.
Fine, thanks. So, Viva's Article 138(3) of the Constitution provides very clearly that the tallying and verification, and then followed by declaration, shall be done by the IEBC. That is, and they say tallying, verification, and declaration.
Yes.
And IEBC is the commission in its entirety, as led by the commissioners, including the chair. The chair is not the commission. The chair is part of the commission. And then Article 138(10) talks about then the chairperson making the final declaration. And so declare is used twice, with respect to the role of the commission, as commission, as a body corporate, and then with the role of the chair. And then from there, and please note that the Constitution doesn't use the language of national returning officer, which is the main area now whereby those who support these irregularities and inconsistencies and constitutional non-compliance are now hiding under. And then from there you come to the IEBC Act, and especially the schedule, which then says that whenever the commission is making its decisions in terms of its powers, functions, and business, well, it must have a quorum of at least 3, and that's the quorum of 3 is a considered issue, which BBI Supreme Court also said, and that's okay. There's no problem with that. I've had some rumamongers saying that Azimio should now fear because they are the ones who advanced through BBI that the quorum is 3. There's no problem there. It's 3, quorum is 3. But then the same schedule says the commission ought to make its decisions either unanimously, as much as possible, through all consensus. But in the event there is no unanimity or consensus, then it will be by a majority. And surely, viewers, 4/7 is the majority, now, by a majority.
Now let me take you to that point, Prof. Is there a provision of law that creates a guideline in the event what happened? Is there a provision of law that says if we do not agree unanimously or if we do not get to a majority quorum, is there a provision for law moving forward what the chair should have done in this particular situation? Because yes, he had 3 people there, the 4 had dissented. Is there a provision in law?
Absolutely. That is what I'm reading, viewers, and this is the volume that I've done, put together on the laws on elections compendium. That is what I'm saying is the schedule to the IEBC Act, saying that for you to make a decision that is valid, constitutional, and legitimate, it must, and procedural, it must be based on a 3-member quorum. That's okay, because 3 for commissions is the basic for all commissions in the Constitution. And then number 2, that schedule to IEBC says, because every commission, every board has its own rules of quorum. We start with quorum. The smallest number of people who can conduct any business. So that minimum is 3. And for all commissions in Kenya, it's 3 under the Constitution, at least 3. But then, from quorum, the minimum, you get to the idea of how can you make a decision? What if so that's why when IBC was just 3 members, they still constituted a quorum. But that also meant that they had all to be present to make any decision.
They had to be physically present?
All to make, because that was the minimum. No, when they were 3. But when they are more than 3, their own schedule to the IEBC Act says, then you make a decision by unanimously, consensus, or by a majority of the members of the commission, which means that if you are more than 3, then 3 can't make a decision. It must be a majority, you're not just 3. If you are 7, in other words, which now they are, you can only make a decision unanimously or by a majority, which majority now means you can't split human beings into fractions. So it is at least 4 over 7 would make a decision. And therefore, Chebukati's wing or Chebukati himself making some of these unilateral decisions, because it is emerging that some of those decisions were unilateral.
Those were allegations that are being made by Serena 4, as we refer to them, the 4 IEBC commissioners who said that actually they do not take part. They found that opaque. They're not part and parcel of what was
And
read
indeed, they were not there at the so-called declaration.
So them being absent physically when that declaration was being made by IBC chair, the returning officer, presidential returning officer, makes it, or rather waters down the role of the commissioner, or even waters down the validity of the announced presidency.
The main issue that actually makes it an unconsidered decision, irregular decision, illegal and unlawful decision is the fact that they did not participate in the decision making. Take it this way. Apart from which we have read Article 138.3, 138.10, we have gone to the IBC schedule. There is another regulatory issue. Chairman Chebukati, I was a verification clerk at Bomas. He developed a protocols on how to do tallying and verification, which he signed. And those protocols, which there later on was varied a bit, provided for the role of the commission, for the role of the chair, for the role of the presidential election candidates or their agents, because many times they don't have to go, so they can work through agents. And therefore, that protocol also is important because it provided for the role of the commission as, or qua, commission lawyers would say qua, QUA, as commission, commission as commission, so not just
as a
the chairperson.
As a chair.
So why did he breach those protocols? He can't do these things unilaterally. It's not about, the commission is not about him.
Now, Professor, am I hearing you saying that the IBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, making the declaration that he did it a little bit prematurely?
Yeah, it was both irregular and premature. Because premature for various reasons.
He was time-bound.
Time-bound Tuesday, was it coming? They had a 7-day continuous timeline. What was the hurry? It reminds us of midnight swearing in 2007 by candlelight. What was the hurry here? And in this case, the Constitution has stipulated very, very clearly that you have to do it within a 7-day timeline, and you have not even announced all the other constituencies. And in any event, if there is a very, very good reason not to announce because there are practical, clear difficulties, you could go to court to we call expanding time, enlarge time, as we call it in law. The court can help you enlarge time. You don't do an unconstitutional thing and then go and tell us that I have a deadline.
Of law.
Yes.
Talking about the provision of law, there's a question of us. Now, the commission did not unanimously agree, and as you've said, in terms of lacked quorum in your argument. Then, is there a provision of law? What would he have done then, given the timelines? Is there a provision of law that says if you cannot agree unanimously, yes, and if you do not form quorum, what next?
Yeah, that's mainly the schedule.
What next?
Which provides like this, the practical application of it. This is that you verify and you make sure and tally and verify among with the agents, with the commission staff, and then at the commission level, you call a meeting and say that this is the data that we have. These are the votes we have, and then you say, let's work towards a quorum, and let's work towards a consensus or unanimity. And then in case there is any dissenting voice, or dissenting voices, then you say, then let's take a vote. And I want to correct one thing. Some control rumormongers are saying this, that commissioners voting on the question of tallying and verification means that they are overriding all our votes, yet we had voted. No, absolutely not. They are voting that we have verified and these are the numbers. They are not supposed to create new numbers, which it appears Chebukati was creating. So they are not overriding. In fact, it is us, the people, and through the Constitution, who gave the Commission that power. It's the same way we have given judges power. These days, a judge can sit in court in an election petition and say that while it was said that A won the election, based on tallying and recount, tallying, scrutiny, those are words which we find that it's actually B who won. That doesn't mean that it's the judges who have voted for this. No, but they have the
Thank
power.
you for that clarification.
Yes.
Now, because as you're working towards a close, I'd want to know is, the 4 commissioners and their utterances in terming as the process opaque and distancing themselves from the results and the declaration that the IBC chair Wafula Chebukati made, is it going to play a major role in the presidential petition? Is it going to add value to it?
It adds a lot of value, but the presidential election petition depends on what at the time of filing are regarded as, what I was telling you need not be the grounds. You get my point? Because
so what
there are so many grounds that lawyers can choose, so many other, and even ignore these and still succeed. This is a very clear case. It's a very glaring case. This election was conducted with a lot of impunity and arrogance. Yes.
So says Prof. Now, we saw the election observers give the process a clean bill of health. And we also saw this similarly happen in 2017. We even had them saying that this is a process that needs to be emulated at least across the East African community. In regard to what has happened in the last 1 day or two, are you seeing observers? We are waiting for their report. It comes after the election. What are you likely to see from there? Are they going to ringage on their word?
I've seen observers give some of their preliminary reports, actually. Preliminary, but then they follow. And I think many times of the preliminary is like standard. Most of it is very standard. And even when some of them are speaking, it's just a standard language. This language used to go like this, and I think it's not departed very much from that. The pre-election process, preparatory process, the voting were peaceful. And generally the electoral process was passed the standards according to African standards. That's I used to see African standards, and
so you're likely to see the same.
So you see that kind of language. But let's just focus on this issue of observers. 3-pronged argument for me. Number one, some of the observers, like even Elog, when they were speaking on TV, we saw them and we say, "God save Kenya, God save, save them."
Are you expecting a divergent view, or will they stick? Or what is likely to happen?
3 things. That one, they even acknowledge that some of them even acknowledge that they observed maybe just about 99 or very small fraction of the polling stations or the processes. And in any event, none of them sat through the whole process.
So in your view, that they may not have, they may having a myopic
Number
view.
one, because it's not even just saying that we sat somewhere and we tallied and we find that the numbers are okay. Elections, Raila 2017 told us and still tells us up to today, election is about both process and outcome. And therefore, they did not observe enough about process to make those conclusions. Number two is that there is the question of 2017. I think this is my last point on this issue. There is the question of 2017, where the observers were actually unanimous, if you'll recall. And what did the Supreme Court say? Nullified. So observers, please, let us, I know many times some of them do it from a political angle that we want to move on, and that attitude of moving on is a major issue that observers look at.
Now, as we bring this to a close, where we stand right now, would want to know, we have seen what happened in 2013 and 2017, and some divergent focus in terms of the process. In 2013, the petition went after the vote. In 2017, it focused on the process. Given where we are in 2022, what is the likely direction that the presidential petition is going to take. Are we going to go after the process and the tally? Because there's a question that was put forth to the 4 commissioners by the media holding during that particular press briefing. Do they have alternate results than what has been put forth by IEBC? They could not answer. And this situation where maybe there's a provision that maybe the alleged counties or constituencies where the tally had not been uploaded or mentioned or announced did not have requisite numbers to change the outcome. And IEBC chair went forth to make his declaration. Those 2 areas.
Well, whenever, I think 3-pronged response to that. Whenever number one, we keep repeating this, that election is about process and it's about numbers and outcome. By Odinga 2013, that's now the law. Number 2, if the process was not followed and the numbers are also very problematic as the evidence is emerging. Number 3, the process, including the involvement of commissioners, but also the involvement of agents in various stages of this process. Number 3, there is this problem of if Mr. Chebukati, as you've hypothesized, found that the numbers were sufficient to cross the threshold of 50% plus 1, a situation which would be similar but not identical to 2002. We need to be reminded that actually Kivuitu, Mr. Samuel Kivuitu, declared candidate Mwai Kibaki as the winner before all the physical forms were in Nairobi. And this is partly because it was a 3-2 kind of situation. I think 30% to 60%, and whatever had not been tallied would not make a difference. And you declare so, but again, you don't declare it as chairperson alone. It is a decision that made by the commission. And here we are saying, and they have said in public that, and we know that they were not part of that decision. And the Chebukati did not come and tell us that, the threshold has been passed at 50% plus 1, and that whatever constituencies we have not announced, in any event, they are supposed to announce from all constituencies.
So did he have a prerogative to actually give the details as you come to a close? Did he have the prerogative to give the details before making that declaration?
He had a duty, not just those details from him, which he are not there in 34C, but as a commission, it's a corporate decision. It's not an individual decision. The commission is not, Chebukati is not a commissioner. However wrong he might be.
So we have been speaking to none other than Professor Ben Sihanya there, just give a constitutional lawyer, giving us an in-depth look into what may be the grounds of the presidential petition that is in the offing. Their issue of transparency and insisting that when it comes to a petition, you not only look at the process, you look at the process as well as the outcome. You have been watching Prime Edition on KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu. What did you just say?
Si utamthilia tu.
And why you're saying that
Ni tamthilia tosha
Alinishika hivi. What?
Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Enda kabisa kama uelewi kitu inafaa uelewi.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika